Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Thinking Ahead with Sourya. Today, I'm really excited because we have Peter Kestenholtz on the podcast. Peter is the founder and head of innovation and AI and at Context, and he's spent more than 20 years working at the intersection of AI, strategy, and project portfolio management. He's also a 15-time Microsoft MVP in areas like Power Apps and AI and Copilot, a member of Forbes Technology Council, and he's spoken at over 100 conferences around the world about how AI is changing the way that we work. Peter, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So my first question is, to start off, for students who may not know you yet, how do you describe what you do? How do you describe your workday every single day?
Big question. Well, as you just said, I lead our sort of innovation when it comes to specifically AI and product development in our company called Context. It's also important maybe to emphasize that I sold the company, my own company that I started 21 years ago. I sold that almost 4 years ago. And the company that acquired us is the company I work for now as well. So I have a larger reach than I used to have. So my typical day would be working with more strategic customers, experimenting with new technology alone or with my fellow co-workers. And then, of course, also sharing a lot about what I learned from these experiments. That's part of my job, both internally and a lot of the times also externally.
That's great. What kind of technology would you be using, and what was that company that you sold 21 years ago?
Yeah.
That you started 21 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the company was called Projectum, which means project in Latin, so project management. We founded it based on Microsoft having Microsoft Project back in the days as a product, which was big, also here in the EU and in the Nordics. And we were 4 people starting up a company to only do services around helping customers use Microsoft Project. That grew into something more focused on enterprise companies who wanted something more central. So Project Server, Project Online when the cloud came. So we also help people transition from on-prem to cloud. And then some 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps actually it's almost 7 now, time goes fast, but we learned, of course, that Microsoft Project would not be invested in going forward the same way as we used to see it. So, which is tricky when you have 70 people working for you doing only consulting around the product that sort of were going away. So instead we decided to build our own replace product, which we called Power PPM back then. And the technology for that was Microsoft Power Platform, which is basically the same platform that Microsoft Dynamics solutions like CRM and those types of solutions are running on. So we reused an existing platform and built the product from scratch, actually, or from the ground up. So today you could say I work in a sort of product and consulting company. Mm-hmm. And we also have 30 something, perhaps a little bit more partners globally selling our products in different time zones, all the way through to New Zealand and South America. And we're in the middle, you could say, in the EU. So that's sort of the journey in short, I think, technology-wise, beyond Power Platform, because it's a lot about becoming AI native for me. Then most of the tools I would use is, of course, still Microsoft powered. Copilot Studio, M365, Copilot, custom agents we built, but that's the technology is still Copilot. And then, of course, I investigate a lot about the different AI models and how each of those can be fitted to different processes. So, of course, one of the things I really advocate for is to not use one AI model, but rather find a lot of models that can be used for different types of work or tasks that we want AI to do. So I think that sort of summarizes both the company I started and also what I'm doing today.
Right. So around 5 years ago, how did you make that transition from selling the company to working at this one?
Well, first of all, we had created our products, which took a while, 2 to 3 years, where we were also running short on cash, to be honest. Anyone who worked with the company back then knew that this was hard times. Also had to let a lot of people go, unfortunately, but that's what it takes sometimes. So you sort of have a dip in your turnover and profits. And then at some point we saw that it was starting to go up again because you're sort of compounding the subscription. So you have a small amount of money to begin with, and it sort of accumulates or compounds over time. And when we started to grow like this, we also felt a big demand from companies outside Europe, outside of Denmark especially, and to really scale it going forward in a fast pace that I needed. In many ways, I needed more cash, more sort of risk-willing capital, and that's where I started to look for who could invest in us. And we found this company called Broad Horizon back then. It changed the name to the Digital Neighborhood. We're still part of that, which is sort of an umbrella organization that invests in niche companies in EU. So when they learned us or got to know us, then also what I told them is that it's not like I'm quitting my job or quitting my dream or whatever. I just want to be part of building the product globally faster. So I will definitely like to stay on board. So therefore also reinvested a lot of the money that was on the table. So I'm also a shareholder, you could say, in the new setup that I'm in. Yeah, so that's the story short, I think. And most of, if not everyone, almost of our employees are still here as well, even after the acquisition, which is not normal in this space, but we got through it. So that was probably the tough part as well. But I think we found the right buyer. That's an important aspect on why I'm still here as well.
I think that's an amazing journey that you've had from where you started to where you are right now.
Thank you. It is.
So I just want to know more about the AI part now. So for a teenager listening to this, like, what is an AI agent in your world? Do you work with AI? What kind of AI do you work with that's beyond just ChatGPT or Copilot?
Well, there are the different models of ChatGPT for sure, but let's start with the agent part, of course. I use two agents for two different purposes. One is to fully replace what humans used to do end to end, no human interference. And then the other way of using an agent is to collaborate with a human, ideally in real time. So there are those scenarios where you have to completely replace a job function, a role, actually a person, with one or multiple agents. And the thing is that for one process, let's say in project management, creating another way, I would never create sort of a project management agent. I would create an agent for creating tasks, an agent for following up on tasks, an agent for financials, an agent for risk management. And each of these agents have different sort of purposes and tasks that they do to help the project manager. So it's a lot of agents to solve one problem or one process for one job function. And then for each of these agents, let's say you are analyzing whether or not you have created a plan that's feasible. That would typically require that it has to run a deep analysis and compare it to other plans from the past, for instance. That will take a lot of time and requires a model that's a research model that can go deep and run for different scenarios for 20 minutes perhaps. So for that type of job, I would use that. If it's perhaps going online, capturing the weather conditions if you are a construction company and converting that into risks for developing a house, for instance, then I would probably use a small model because it has to mainly just go out real time, capture some information, and then write down 20 tasks with 20 risks or 50 risks. So a bit more simple. So it's like a car. You have different engines for different purposes: V8, V4, electric. I see it the same way. And ultimately, all of these have to talk to each other. It's like an agent-to-agent orchestration, which is and context engineering, that's the future job functions I see in tech, which is to be able to select the right model and rebuild what humans used to do by framing the agent in a context. And how do you describe what the context is? Well, I think that's the engineering part. Whereas the coding and all those things, of course, AI can do that for us very, very well these days. So that's probably not where I would invest. But orchestrating different agents, context controlling them, and making sure that they reach out to humans when needed, and when not needed, they just run on their own. That's sort of how I see agents right now.
That's actually really cool. So it's like, if I need a specific task done, you'd have an agent entirely just for that.
Yeah. Yes,
And
exactly.
it's not like ChatGPT where it can do like anything you ask it.
No, because it's a lot of it's like, for me, ChatGPT 5, for instance, not the mini, but just 5, the big one. That would be like running a V8 engine for every purpose you have. So there's no need to rely on the entire combined internet knowledge in a model, when the only thing you want to do is to create 3 tasks based on a news feed from some channel that you have put to your agent. So it is a lot about figuring out what is the right model, not just because of speed, but also because of, I think, going forward, there could also be something around what we call environmental impact. Probably not so relevant right now, but why use the V8 engine for something that can be solved with a small battery? So there is the electricity consumption and the load that you put on these data centers. It has to make sense based on the task we're trying to do.
Right. Okay, so if you think ahead to 2030, do you imagine a normal day would what a normal day would look like for someone in your workforce, and will everyone be using AI agents by like default?
Everyone will be using AI for sure. And I think looking ahead, we will probably be in a situation where well, agents come first. That's what we're building agents. We are maintaining agents, or servicing agents as well, supporting agents on behalf of our customers. We will most likely not rely on any app as we used to. Today, we're building apps a lot. My company runs on an app that we built, right? So I think it's not like we're going to be completely app-less at that point in time, but we will see more and more of these. I think customers will decide on their future agents, not their future applications. And they will just expect that the data floats into a database in a structured way and will be pulled out in front of the user when needed. And then I think also looking ahead, we'll be probably in a situation where a great technical consultant in 2030 will be someone who's really deep or strong in a certain process or business process. So I think you'll see business and tech sort of really merging up. It's not going to be two different things. It's very much going to be one thing. So again, you can say that the typical, learn to program at a tech school, and then you sort of go out and you ask customers, so what can I do for you? What would you like AI to do for you? And then we just build it for them. I don't think that's going to sustain. Customers will expect us as consultants to come with defined use cases that we know will work, stuff that will save them time, or maybe stuff that will completely replace people. And I know, like in 2020, I spent a lot of my time investigating trends in the market, right? And I do a lot of keynote sessions everywhere. And for the last couple of months, I've been out on large events speaking. And it's the same thing. I'm feeling that next year, 26, 27, it's all about doing more with the same amount of people or less, actually. Achieving more with less could be the sort of the hitter. And I think people right now can't do more than they're already doing. Most people are working beyond their contract hours for sure. You see it every time and everywhere. It's people are running meetings, chats, mails, day and night almost. So I don't think we can do any more there. It's time has come now to have AI do stuff for us, really do it for us. Otherwise, I don't think we can continue to grow. So it's a race towards who can do most with less in the coming years.
Right.
And that's the purpose we have to serve as consultants.
Right. So you said, like you said, you've spoken at a lot of these events. What do you generally speak about, and what do you enjoy about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think right now it's different than 2-3 years ago, where everyone was not convinced about AI. It was like, hey, it doesn't know how just to calculate how many R's are in Strawberry. I had to sort of talk about that. Or why is it not connected to the internet? It's giving me old data. All of that stuff. I think we are a little bit beyond that now, which is great. So people are more into a situation now where they expect me to show them what they can use of these tools that they have, but that they didn't know how to do. And then it used to be me explaining about in depth what AI is and how it works and the engine behind the whole thing and why you can trust it and all of that. Today, it's more like when I go on stage, I do the intro, I set the scene, I talk about the macro economics and, which direction are people going. But you can just feel that the audience just want me to, open up my browser and show some great stuff they didn't know was possible. So which is the fun part. So on stage these days, it's talking about, really talking about that in the future, we're going to build digital employees, whether you like it or not. And repeatable work is probably the job functions that's up for grabs first. So if I was in that role, that could be a project manager or project controller or financial controller or something like that, then I would definitely lean into AI, because if not, someone else will. And at some point, I will probably either be out of a job or forced to find another job. So on stage, I really try to help people move from where they are into the AI future, so that that they remain relevant, that they bring their experience to the table. Because if they try to protect it, I think that's the opposite of what you need to do. So it's to give them that energy. And then I think one more thing is actually I always talk about the wow factor. Like, you might have been sitting with AI and tried it because your manager told you to use Copilot or ChatGPT. And many people I meet still haven't tried that wow moment personally, where they're like, that's crazy. How did it know how to do that? And I think everyone has to come up with some sort of a wow experience before they really dive into it. And that's very different depending on who you are. If you are completely colorblind like me, then the ability for AI to help me produce great colors, that's my wow moment. But if you are dyslexic, for instance, the fact that you can now just speak and it writes in real time, perfect grammar and all of that stuff, well, that's the dream for someone who can't write or read, perhaps. So everyone has different needs, I think, and different things where AI can do something for them. So rather than companies trying to come up with some great vision for the use of AI, I think they should start by helping people experiment on their own to get to that wow moment. And then from there, you'll have people who are almost ambassadors for AI trying to roll it out for other people to use. So that's probably what I try to do on stage. A little bit of tech intro, what's happening in the world, and then try to give them a wow moment so that when they go back, they will want to try it at home, and they try it, it works, and then spread the word to their fellow employees and so on.
So you're essentially saying that if people adapt to AI, then they probably won't lose their jobs because AI is inevitable and we have to change to adapt to it.
Yeah, it's like if you have a developer here who does not want to use AI, tries to protect all the secret stuff they used to be good at, and then you have this developer over on the other side who spins up 10 agents and suddenly codes like a team of 10. It won't take a lot of months before management will notice that the person on with the agents is producing like 10 times much more value towards customers, 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper. And then you have the other one who might be good at something, but like protective around it. So I think it's pretty clear who you want to invest in going forward. That's the one who wants to take what they're good at, give it to the community of, let's say, agents almost, or employees. And then it's like the opposite of protecting your knowledge. You have to really spread it out. And for me, having been an MVP for 15 years, in the beginning, I always thought, what if I share all my nuggets, all my small tricks that I know that not everyone knows? If I share that all the time on LinkedIn, how will I become good eventually? But I've learned that it has the opposite effect. The more I share, the more customers are reaching out to me. The more followers I get, the more leads and opportunities and all that stuff. So just keep sharing, and it will come back to you. And it's the same thing with AI.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So AI is not replacing jobs. It's the future that jobs are going. So value comes when you know how to use AI.
Yeah, I would say, like before the car, who were the mechanics? They weren't around, right? And we got a car, now we have car mechanics. So when an agent fails to work, someone will be an agent mechanic, and we'll need a lot of agent mechanics. So we will probably see more agents than we have of people. So it's endless the amount of agents we have to serve and control and trim and adjust. It's like the future mechanic is the one who actually adjusts the digital workforce. And I think we'll need a lot of people who are good at that, way more than we have right now. So yeah, of course, some job functions will be automated, but those people won't just be sitting around doing nothing. There's a lot of stuff to do. You will probably be forced into changing job. You see that with the cab drivers, right? I was just in San Francisco a few weeks ago for a week, and all the taxis I drove with were autonomous. So definitely I didn't see a lot of taxi drivers there. And then I hope that someone will try to move a taxi driver from that function to something else. But that's a community. I think for each country, we have that problem that we need to help people move from one role to another. But long term, I think it's for the good and for the better.
Right, right. Okay, so now I want to talk about the entrepreneurship part of your story. So
Mm-hmm.
you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I mean, you started that company, you dragged it through some hard times, and then you did really well in that company. Then you had investors, you invested in different companies. When did you first realize that you wanted to build your own company instead of just working for someone else? I mean, you could start like all the way back in high school.
Well, I actually after high school, I stopped going to school. When I was done with that, I actually thought, okay, this must be. Now I'm an educator, right? And then I learned, because I come from a background of no one with a long education. So I thought if I have high school, I'm good to go. Until I learned that everyone went to university and so on, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then, since I was 6 or 7, I spent time with computers in my basement. That was sort of my hobby. So I knew I wanted to work with that, but it was difficult to get into the industry when you don't have an engineering certificate or something like that. So I ended up working in the car industry as a salesman. Then I worked in a couple of years in Domino's Pizza as well. I actually got my own Domino's Pizza up and running here in Denmark as a manager there. Yeah, what else? From there, actually, at some point, I was allowed to get in to an IT company that actually did something around also project management with Microsoft. And I was there for 1 year, sort of, as someone who's also selling. My entire salary was more or less anchored around provision based. So if I didn't sell anything, I wouldn't get anything. So I was risk
Hmm.
free for the owner. And so I was there. But what I learned there is that I did well for those years because I was very good at selling and I was very good at tech. I surprised him how good I was, a super geek, and I still am. At that point in time, I was 22, 23. I spent 15 years in my basement with all this hardware and software. So I of course knew everything around it. But in there, I learned what I did not want my company to be, which is that everyone was on an individual sort of provision-based salary. So if I had a great month, it was difficult to be happy about it and celebrate it in public, because you might have four others next to you who had a bad month.
Mm.
So I found it weird that at some point we had the opportunity to me and three others, we sat down and we thought, should we create our own company doing the same thing, but where we start with a different culture, where the culture is, we might have different base salary, but the bonus each month or the upside should be completely shared with everyone. If you're the CEO or the secretary, it should be the same bonus in terms of size and number, and it should be paid out each month, so that if we have a great month, everyone has a great month. That's how it started, actually. And then we
That's
started a
actually,
company.
oh yeah, that's amazing. So it wasn't because of, I mean, to some extent it was your personal desire, but it was that culture that you wanted to change in the company, that everyone should be just as happy. And it makes perfect sense, right? Like you said, I mean, if you're doing really well, it doesn't always mean you can share that enjoyment. So that's amazing that you were able to make that new culture in the company that you started.
Yeah, and I was warned from different people I knew in the industry saying, no, that won't work, or it won't scale, and you won't get the high performers because they want to get paid the highest. I would say after 20 years now, it's the complete opposite effect, completely opposite. But what I learned also is that what is a high performer? A high performer might be one that is 25 years old, just got out of school, right? And has no kids, no family, no nothing. They work, 70, 80 hours a week. You only sleep and then you work, and then you sleep and then you work. That might be high performing at that point of time in your life. But then you get kids and you have to pick them up from school and drive them to the kindergarten, all those things. How do you high perform at that point in time without burning out completely? So I think for me, high performance is something that changes over time. And I would like people to be really good at what they do. And one of the ways to get to that point in time is to have them not change job every 2 or 3 years. So I think we built a company where most of the people who were there 15 years ago, 16 years ago, are still in the company. And we also got someone in, of course, joining us along the way. PwC and other really large companies where they were really good, really successful, really high achievers, probably also getting paid more than they were in my company, but they were lacking the collaborative way of working, I think, and the ability to say, okay, I need to in the next 2 weeks work a little bit less, but then I'm ready in 2 weeks again, because then whatever is happening is gone. So I think you get a more balanced life if you share. I'm brain damaged from living in Denmark as well in some ways. Like, we have a very high taxation model. We have welfare as a key driver for the entire. So we're sort of, the more I pay in tax, the less people I see on the streets. So is that a good trade-off? I think that's depends on who you are. I like the idea that when I go out of my house, I don't have homeless people. I don't have a lot of things, but also I paid close to 60% tax, and I've done that for 20 years. But that's the trade-off. I think you can sort of copy that into the workplace. So of course, we also attracted people who would like to be part of a place where everyone is treated fair and nice. And those who don't want that, who just want an individual race, then of course they should go somewhere else for sure. But I really don't think we've scared off any high performers. I only think we have high performers.
I mean, it definitely makes for some very loyal employees and a flexible community. So it would make
Exactly.
sense that it has people, they're happy about their work. They want to do better, not just for themselves, but for the company as a whole.
Yes. I think an example too, as well, as when we had the COVID times, we were also locked down and all of that. We couldn't go to work. I was thinking maybe it's going to collapse completely. So I had two options. Either I could, risk management wise, let go of people immediately to sort of cut costs and therefore maybe survive. And we met up, me and my partners, and we discussed what else could we do. And we came up with an alternative, which was that if the turnover drops, let's say 20%, because of COVID, then all salaries drop 20%. If it drops 30%, we all drop 30%. But that required every single employee to, sign an appendix to their contracts that they're up for. And I thought, okay, maybe they'll say, to hell with you, Peter, I'm going to do something else. Or they will say yes. And every single person said yes. Good news is that we never got a down tour. Actually, it was the complete opposite. It went up because everyone was doing digital work and all of that. But I learned that, okay, people are willing to do that, because I told them the alternative to committing to this is that we will have to say goodbye to 10 or perhaps 15 people immediately. So people were saying, okay, let's not do that. Let's have everyone on board, and then of course have flexibility in that the base salary might drop. That gave me a lot of energy to see that. It was a big day for me as well, that people are that willing to protect the workplace and their fellow coworkers. And that sort of stayed with me also, yeah, today actually. That's as far as people are willing to take it. So it's beyond. I think what we do is great. People are passionate about project management, we're passionate about AI, all the products we do. But end of the day, I don't think that's what connects us together. It's what I just described before. I think it's the workplace we're protecting, basically.
So, in starting this company, like now that you've, in that point in time, you've already started it and you've grown it from there. But when you were originally starting it, what were like some of the biggest problems that you faced? And how
Yeah,
did you like overcome them?
cash was one thing. How do you overcome that in the startup phase? Well, I worked 2 jobs for the first 2 years. I had my entrepreneurial job with a nice title. And then in the real time, I went into Tivoli. We have a Tivoli garden, which is an amusement park here in Copenhagen, where I went and then worked as a bartender from 5 to 12 o'clock in the evening. So sort of covering my salary with that. So the money we made in the startup could be reinvested and we could hire people. We were also the most underpaid employees, the founders, for the first, I think, 4 or 5 years almost. The point being, you have to be willing to invest a lot to getting it up and running. And I think what I'm very good at, which is what I've learned over time, is I don't think I'm the most talented in tech at all. I think there's a lot of talent out there that's much better than me. I'm also not the best leader or manager, but I think what I'm really good at is being persistent and sort of, I have my endurance, you could say. Also,
Tenacity?
yeah, exactly. Like when I look at the sports I do, which I enjoy, it's always ultra this, ultra that, ultra this, and it's been like that forever. And I just keep going, no matter how hard it is. And I'm really good at just keep going. And I think that that's what some people I meet today who are starting up they don't have that. They saw some sort of a TV show, they learned that someone started a company, sold it for $100 million the year after, 2 years after, and now they want the same. So there's a lack of if you told people today, you know what, a startup to really make sure that the rate of success is high, you probably should look at it from a 10 to 15 year perspective. I think most entrepreneurs will like, no way, I'm going to sell it in 3 years when I get my first subscriptions up and running. And that's just not how it is. Also, people think that the company's worth $100 million before they sold anything because they've seen that somewhere with some AI company but that's like the 0.001% of companies that runs like that. So if you want to sort of start something up and be successful, you really have to, from the beginning, just acknowledge that this will take time. This will be hard. I just heard a podcast with the NVIDIA CEO recently. He works 7 days a week still. I don't know what it is, the 7th or 8th most highest valued company right now in the world.
Mm.
His main driver is still the concern about being beaten by competitors. Every single morning he wakes up. And I think they have the same. I'm constantly concerned about things crashing, even if I'm in a stable place now where we are in the group as a whole, more than 1,000 people, yada, yada. But it's still my number one driver. That is my concern about losing what I have in some strange way. Maybe because of my background, also family wise, I didn't come from money and all of that. But that is I'm proud to admit that is my core driver. I fight to make sure that I don't lose what I have. So I rarely find the time to lean back and just enjoy it, which I practice to try and do, but it's very difficult for me. But I think that is why I have been successful, at least me, that I always, I'm always on, I'm always improving stuff. So for me, that has been the drive, I think.
Right, right. So for example, I'm really interested in entrepreneurship and startups and all of this, but I'm only a freshman in high school. So if you had to give one tip to high schoolers, if they want to start their own company in the future, I know you described one of the biggest skills that you needed, but what is that one tip that you would give that would really prepare them for what it would be like and the choices that they would have to make?
I think everyone goes, no matter which company you look at, entrepreneurship wise, they all went through hard times, many, many, many times. And like Nvidia, they almost crashed 3 times before they were successful. Lots of Netflix didn't make money for the first 8 years, but they had investors backing them up. So if you are in a situation where you want to control your own company and your own faith and not rely on other people's money, which is that's an option, then you need a lot of patience and you need to be willing to risk it all Not just when you start the company, that's the easiest part. Just starting up a company, coming up with a name, that's the easy part. It's risking it all in terms of also being the last one who gets anything. So if you have 10 employees, right, and you've been up and running in your company for 2 years, suddenly you don't have a lot of cash. Like, who's the last one to get paid? That's you. It should be you.
Right.
How do you practice that when you're younger? That's difficult. I don't really know, but I think it's a trait you have to have in you, the willingness to do whatever it takes, get everything you have. A couple of times, my entire house here was also at stake to make sure we could go through the tough times, right? And at the same time, I never went to the bank and loaned any money. But that some would say that I should have done that in the beginning, because then I could have done the whole thing faster than 20 years. On the other hand, who knows? And I think there's also the aspect that I've been able to control the company with my partners for all those years, because we didn't have any sort of silent partners or partners who just put some money in and then they call you every year asking for money to be paid back with a higher rate or whatever. We never had that. So I didn't care if I had a bad quarter or a bad year, whatever. Then
Right.
I just thought maybe next year will be better. So I think you have two modes you need to really pick and choose from. One is to be backed up by investors, which is a whole different space to be in. And if you want to roll with that, you need to prepare for how do you please investors? How do you report to investors? How do you manage in that situation? And the other one is I'm going to do it on my own with the time it takes, because then I'm in control. And in that context, it's a lot about patience, patience, and not buying an expensive apartment and the Porsche and whatever, just because the first month is great. You don't really just hold back. So mentally preparing for that, I think, is what I would do in some ways. But I don't really know how you do that. It's just,
Right. Right.
yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
difficult.
I'm really glad like it all worked out for you. So what I would ask is leadership is I think a big thing that you would need in
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. Definitely when you started the company, I would assume that there was a lot of leadership involved and you need some leadership skills. What is one leadership skill that you would recommend for people to start practicing
Hmm.
from my age?
I'm just thinking here. I think my style has been always been to be very transparent and honest, and then making sure that feedback can be shared without people taking it personal. And it
Mm,
starts with you. That's the thing. If you're not open for people to tell you that you should probably correct this or do this different, then that would be better for me. And if you always sort of defend against that or sort of be protective around it, then you won't build a culture of people sharing their mind. And I think that's what you definitely need. If you acknowledge that people can be smarter than you, then you need to have a space where people can adjust whatever course you set forth. So I think it's the leadership trait for me. Yes, it's to be vulnerable and honest, which doesn't sound like leadership, but it is.
mm,
If you are that, people will be the same and respect you in a different way. And then I think ultimately you'll get what I consider is like fellowship. Honestly, when I look at people today and figure out who's a good leader, who's not, I don't really look at their background and how many years they've been in the company. You might have been in the company for 8 years, but if no one goes to that person and asks them a question because they need help, if the person just sits alone, in my opinion, you're not really a senior because you're not a mentor to anyone. You're just your own.
right.
I see a lot of people who join the company and after like 1 year, they're already being asked from everyone about stuff and they listen and they answer and they try to help everyone. That's a senior, that's a leader to me. So how do you sort of position yourself in a place where people would actively seek you out, get your advice, and you're willing to share and receive feedback? I think that's also the future of leadership. That sort of way of it's not management by fear and those types of old ways of doing things. They won't work. People just leave you and go somewhere else. So yeah, so I don't leadership for me back to building up fellowship so that with or without me, actually today I'm in a situation where I don't manage people at all. I used to for 18 years, but the last 4 years, not at all. I still have the mandate to tell people that they should do this and this and that, and they do it. And not because I'm the one who can fire them or anything, because I can't, but probably because they believe in what I say and because we can discuss it and then we agree with on the road forward and then we go with that. You don't have to be a manager in the
Right.
traditional way to get things going. So building up fellowship is important.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It was really inspiring to hear about your journey from founding the companies to working with Microsoft, experimenting with AI agents. And it was really amazing to hear your journey and your story and how it all tied together in the end. So I think a lot of students listening right now, they'll walk away with a much clearer idea of how AI and entrepreneurship, they all connect and how we all need to adapt to it for a better future. So thank you again for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Ria. Thank you.